Well, first off, I want to start by saying that I really love your podcast.
Woo!
I've been listening to it for a while now, and it's really just inspiring and uplifting. And and the best thing about it is I really love how you pause, and I can tell you pause and think about like everything that the person just said, and like you take notes, don't you? Because it sounds like
Yeah.
So
I'm constantly contemplating, and it's for my own good, really.
yeah. Yeah, I was kind of sharing with my husband too that that is kind of neat that I can tell you take notes and stuff, because then you're learning while you're doing the podcast. So that's cool.
Oh yeah. Part of the reason I do it too is I'm not very good at hearing myself, like listen to myself after. Like I know some podcasters will listen to their interviews after the fact.
Yeah.
I'll edit it, but I will listen as little as I can so I don't have to listen to myself.
Yeah.
So the live version is like my time to get it all in. And then after that, I don't want to listen to it again for fear of hearing all of the times I say the word like.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure I say enough.
Oh, I know. And that's part of like the pause. I just did it again. That's part of the pause is that I have to be very careful that I don't fill the space in between each like line.
Yeah.
And I once heard someone say, this is really good advice for podcasting. Just because someone paused doesn't mean you have to fill the space with like, oh yeah, and because it's annoying when you're listening to it, but it's naturally how we speak. When you're talking to someone, you're like, oh yeah, and you make sounds to like verify that you're hearing. But on a podcast, that doesn't sound right. So I heard you, but I'm not going to make noises.
Right. That makes sense. So I wanted to kind of bring to the audience, you've had a lot of different women on your podcast that have talked about everything between health with your mind, body, spirit to traveling. I mean, just all kinds of things. So the one thing that I wanted to present to our audience, we're all health-minded. That's kind of who listens to this. So I wanted to share what are some things that you've learned over time through all of your audience that help people become a better person and healthy. So we're entering into the new year. So I just kind of thought you've got to have some wisdom on this. So.
Oh, God. Yeah, that'll be a good one. I think people need that. I just did an interview on Sunday night, and it was more about like letting the past go, which is good because this is like setting everyone up for the future. It'll be good.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So let's get started. First of all, go ahead and talk about your podcast, what you do. If you're certified in anything, go ahead and share that with everybody.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's do this. Well, let me tell you guys about myself. Thank you so much, Haley, for having me on the podcast. I'm really excited. This is going to be so much fun. And I know that the women that are listening are probably so excited about the new year. You're ready to let go of 2017. It's been too much, too soon. I don't know what it is about the stars, but I am a woman just like most other women in this world. I'm overworked most of the time. I'm underslept. I put too much pressure on myself. I'm a perfectionist. And as a younger girl, I felt like I had to fix everybody in my life all of the time, especially my family and my mother. It was like, if I could just protect my mother from any type of pain or stress or overwhelm, then I was being a good little girl. I don't know if anyone can relate to this desire to be the good little girl, but that was like my MO for years. And it wasn't until that started impacting me in a negative way, and I started realizing how much my personal well-being and satisfaction and validation, it came from other people and trying to make other people happy, that, things had to change, which is why I decided to start traveling. And that's kind of like, it wasn't the podcast because that was a long time ago, but it's like a mini version of a podcast because you go out into the world, you're talking to different people who have different ideas about things, and you start to realize that the way you've been taught isn't the way that you have to live. It's not the way that you have to think. It's not the way things have to be. There's a lot of different perspectives and there's a lot of different ways of doing things. So through the process of traveling and leaving my hometown, I met so many incredible people, and every time I came home, I would get to the airport and I would have tears running down my face, and everyone in my family would be so disappointed that I was not happy to return home. It was like, oh, she's just so upset about coming back. And it wasn't about coming back home. It was about losing that connection to that freedom, that sense of self, that exploration, that ability to kind of open up to new ideas. And so I had to find a new way to connect to that part of myself that was missing for so many years. And that's what started me on the path of, okay, if the way I've been taught is not the way I have to live, if who I'm being is not the way I have to be, if I don't have to stay stuck in the past and I don't have to repeat the patterns of every woman in my family, then what do I want it to look like? And this is a scary question. This is like, okay, yeah, I want to be a celebrity in California. Right? Originally, that's all we had. It was like, okay, we have these TV people and, you know, they had coaches and they have people cooking for them and they have all these opportunities we don't have. And it's like, well, I guess I can't have that. Then what's my version of that? How can I create my life in a way that feels successful and feels exciting to me? And I had to start to learn new ways of thinking in different ways. And that started with my yoga teacher training. So I literally had to like push the button to buy now on the yoga teacher training, close my eyes, hold my breath, thinking like, this is stupid. I'm never going to be able to teach yoga. I can't talk in front of an audience. When I was in like elementary school, I remember standing at the front of the class to read one of my essays. And the teacher had to have every student in the classroom turn around and face the back wall so that I could speak, because I was so uncomfortable with everyone staring at me. And teaching yoga would be putting myself in front of people. It would be learning things that I've never really dived into in my entire life. My mom wasn't a yogi. My grandma didn't grow up in India. This is brand new to me. So teaching something that I had to learn and absorb myself. And from that, I built the confidence, starting to teach women and realizing I could make an impact in their lives. I decided that I would become a health coach, and I took that training, and that was really enlightening to me because I had to coach myself during that process. Mm-hmm. And everything that was still lingering in my life, the kind of self-doubt and the fear of what I could do or what I would do wrong, that had to kind of move away so that I can make those changes. And my coach during that program, she said to me something that I just loved, and it really changed, because I was so stuck in the way things always were. You know, it's just like, this is how things are. I'm always going to be a failure or whatever. And she's like, if you change nothing at all, where are you going to end up a year from now? And I was like, oh, I probably end up where I am now. Like where I'm going to end up exactly where I am, just for maybe even worse. And then I'm realizing that, you know, these changes that I want to make, they're not just little things, that they are massive transformational paths that I can take. And it doesn't have to be hard, but you do have to make the decision. Mm-hmm. So I've completely followed my heart through this entire thing, which led me to the podcast. And now I coach women and I lead workshops and retreats. And I always feel like I can't do much, but what if I wish I had when I was younger was somebody who could have just started me on the path and introduced me to these things, so I wasn't the one like scrambling and searching and grasping at anything I could find. Someone could just bring it all together and say, hey, there's so many options for you. However, right now, you just have to focus on this one. And if I could have just focused on one thing at a time, I would have moved forward more quickly, just felt so much better.
Yeah, I really like that you went through all that, because I kind of feel like I'm 26 and I kind of feel like I'm on that. Like I'm doing this and that and this and that. And you're probably right. If people would just take the time to focus on one particular aspect of their life for a while and get going with that, and then maybe expand out. So
it's very much in layers. Hey.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love that. So you have the Liberated Woman podcast, and so how did that get like brought up for you in that path?
Oh, I've been listening to a podcast for a long time, over 10 years. And you have to envision this, okay? I finished high school and I didn't want to go to university because I didn't want someone to tell me what to do. Like this is how important freedom is to me. I can't even handle being in a room with people telling me what to do. So I was going to travel, therefore I had to work in order to earn the money to go. And I was working at this really awful kind of dollar store type of place. And it was the setup, so they hadn't opened yet. We were just setting up shelving units and like stocking really cheap things on it was just awful. Like the worst vibes you could imagine. Fluorescent lights, no windows, toxic food, toxic like conversation, everybody's bickering.
Yeah. I work
right?
at school in general.
I would listen to the
I work at school in general. I totally get you.
See, yeah, you get it. Yeah, you get me. And I would listen to these podcasts, and they weren't health and wellness. They weren't inspirational. That really wasn't a thing back then. But it was weird because it was free content that I could listen to, and I could escape where I was. I could escape just the monotonous of what I was doing. And I would go to the gym on my lunch break, and I would come back and I would listen to more podcasts, and I would escape into other people's ideas, and I would be able to not stay stuck. I wouldn't become like the people around me, because like they say, you become like the 5 people that you spend the most time around. Well, this is a perfect example. If you're in an environment where you're spending time with people who have small minds, who have small dreams, who don't want much out of life, you're going to be like that too. It's going to be hard not to, even if you have that instinct that you want more. So listening to podcasts, I'm like, okay, I can be somewhere else even though I'm here. Fast forward 10 years, I'm doing this work. Well, I guess it would have been, I started the podcast about 4 years ago now. I was running my local business, and then I was kind of transferring my skills to work with people more online, and I needed a way to connect with more people. And someone told me about this website called Notes from the Universe. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I haven't.
No, Notes from the Universe it's like a daily email, inspirational email, a newsletter type of thing. But when you sign up for the daily email, it doesn't just ask you your name and email, it asks you a dream. It asks you some kind of like, if you could have anything, what thing do you want? And in that line, I put in a successful business and podcast. And it was kind of offhanded. It was on that day, I felt like that was something I wanted to do. So I put it in. And the way that the emails worked is that it wouldn't send that out every single day, but every once in a while it would sprinkle in, hey, Amber, you know that successful business and podcast you want to start? And it would say like, this is the perfect time. And it would just kind of like put it into my mind, okay, it's not just me thinking this is a good idea. This is really a good idea.
Yeah.
And so I'm just looking at this and thinking about this and realizing that if I didn't have my teachers, I wouldn't be where I am today. Every teacher that I've had along the way, really, they've opened a doorway to something that was not possible originally. And if I could just bring more of those people to the women that don't have it, and you have to remember here, I live in a very isolated place. I can't go to conferences. I don't go to bookshops where they have like speakers. There's none of this. Women are told that this is your path, this is what you do, look good, be quiet, cook food, end of story. Just be that. And I imagine in some places you have a lot more access to more interesting people who've got more diverse ideas. The podcast was my way of creating that kind of speakeasy, that coffee shop where you could show up and you could listen to a woman speak and hear about her story and have one little thing change everything in your life. Even if you didn't realize it at the moment, 10 days later, a week later, 6 months later, you just have this aha moment that came from that conversation. If I could do that for people, then that is what I wanted for myself. So that's what I wanted to do for others.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we have a lot of things in common, so it's fun. So yeah, I'm definitely like not an authority type of person. I really like to, I can with my husband, I'm able to do that a little bit, but definitely don't want to have a boss type of ordeal. It's not into that.
No. Do not tell me what to do, where to be, how to do it. Yeah. And I think that's kind of like a kickback for me personally. I know this always sounds so dramatic, but really for the centuries of women who've had no choices, who didn't get to decide what they wanted to do with their body, what they ate, where they went, if they could own property, how many kids they had. All of those things were defined by an outside like force.
Yeah.
Now we have this freedom. And I feel like for a lot of women, when they realize it, it's almost chaos and overwhelm. It's like, oh my gosh, I can do absolutely anything. And so it can be easy to just find a new version of that, a new source of control. So I go to this school, I get this teacher, this person tells me absolutely everything, and I just sacrifice all of my own self. No, it's about taking in lots of different ideas and lots of different experiences to create a tapestry of you, instead of trying to way of doing things. This is your job, this is your boss, this is your life forever.
Yeah. So go kind of rounding back. So what would be like some really good advice for some women that want to start like a path to freedom, that want to start just kind of living their own version of themselves this year?
Ooh.
Where would you think those steps should be?
I think, first of all, what I've noticed for women, because not everyone has a coach. Not everybody has somebody who's been on the path before. I did not have that person. And I remember being so uncertain and unsure. Even when I did the right things, it didn't feel like it was enough, or it just felt like wandering around in the darkness. Yes, you wander around the darkness and like you might find a gem and you're like, yes, this is the thing I'm going to try and I'm going to do it. And then it pulls you forward, and that is awesome. But if you're continually searching around and turning and spinning and spinning and spinning, you're going to get more lost, right? And that's when we kind of give up. So what my first recommendation, my invitation to all of the ladies listening who want to feel more free in the new year and want to maybe change their life a little bit, is that to start with only one thing. Start with one thing. And it doesn't really matter what the thing is, but you have to imagine a ship. And for a ship to end up in a different location on the other side of the planet, so it's traveling across the ocean, there's an island in one place and there's an island in another place. It doesn't have to change like 180 degrees. It doesn't have to turn completely one way. It just needs to turn a degree and it will end up in a different location at the end. So knowing that even if you make one change this year, even if you make one mindset shift, if you just change one belief, then you are going to end up in a different place in the future. So this is where the one thing comes in. It's like, I could try everything. You could try meditation. You could try changing the way that you're eating. You could try going to a different class, trying a course, quitting your job, leaving your spouse, whatever it is. But if you try and do all of them at the same time, you're not going to feel better. You're going to feel lost. So choosing one thing. And for me, it started with my relationship with my body. And it's so subtle, but it goes in every way. The way you're treating your body is probably a very good indication of how you're treating all the different parts of your life. You know, the relationship you have with yourself is the one that is a mirror to the relationship you have with everything. And if you really get honest with yourself and you say, how am I treating my body? How am I treating myself? How do I speak to myself when no one else is around? What am I saying? What am I looking for? Am I looking for my flaws? Am I putting myself down? I know that for me, when I started my yoga teacher training, I started to delve a little bit deeper into this idea of affirmations. I didn't like it. I thought it was crazy. I didn't think it would work. And it won't work if you just use the words. But what's important is that you become more comfortable with loving yourself. Mm-hmm. And if that starts with a lie, a little white lie, and you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, I love you, and you're kind of being sarcastic, and then it becomes a little bit more easy to do that, and you say, oh, I love you. Oh, I love that part of you. And I would even look in the mirror with the lights off and say, I love you, just to make it easy enough to do it, and continually do that over and over again. I love you, reminding myself, it's okay, you're doing great. You're like just affirming with myself that I was okay. That's the first thing, okay? Taking care of your body if that's the first step for you. I mean, if you have a really good relationship with your body, then it would be something maybe with your mindset. Maybe it has something to do with your spiritual practice. But choosing one kind of path and area that you're going to focus on and working on that and using that as the foundation to work your way up. Okay? So that would be the first thing. The second thing that I would do, and I loved this, and maybe it doesn't work for everybody, but I know it works for me. Letting go is one of the most important steps to take. To the point of, I would stand in the shower, and when I got out of the shower every single morning, I would say, I'm ready and willing to let go of the things that no longer serve me. And I would imagine things just like falling away from my body, falling away from my mind, from my thoughts, because we cling to what's comfortable. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you know friends who are in relationships that they should not be in, and they're not in love, but they're comfortable. And I've been there, we've all been there. You're in a job, you're comfortable, but you don't love it. Whatever the thing is, we hold on to what's comfortable. So letting go is kind of the scariest thing in the entire world. It's just like, okay, do I need this? Do I want this? Is this for me? And letting those things go, whether it's who you hang out with, what's inside your home, what clothes are in your closet, everything. Just letting things go one thing at a time, making space for that good stuff to come. Okay? And it's going to take time, and I don't ever want to put pressure on people, but just like the relationship you have with your body is a mirror to your relationship with your life. If you want to see what's really going on in your head, look at what's going around in your environment. Even if everything looks perfect on the outside for other people to see, maybe look in your underwear drawer. What does that look like? Is it underwear from like 15 years ago that's got tears in it? Look at your shoes. Do you just have them piled crazily? Look at your bank account. Is it just a mess and you don't want to look at it? Whatever is going on in your environment, it's really a reflection of what's going on inside of you. So if you're clearing out this stuff, you're going to create space for ease. You're going to create space for freedom. You're going to create space for you to discover who you are. And that's what we really want. And this is going to be my last one, because this is the biggest one possible. So say I'm working with a client, or I'm talking to a friend, or I'm just going through this process myself, because let's be honest, this is a process. It's cyclical. It happens over and over again. But you've kind of started with one area of your life, whether it's your body, your mind, your spirit, your relationships. You started in one area. You start to let things go, so clearing space. Then what you need to do is be okay with things getting better.
Yeah, that's being deserved, feeling like you deserve
yes,
it. Yes,
to deserve it, because this did not sink into me, and I think I could feel it and I could kind of sense it. But until I read The Big Leap, I don't know if you've ever read or heard that book.
But I haven't read it.
Yeah, Gay Hendricks wrote it, and I listened to it wandering through the woods one day. And the things he was saying, my mind was just it was like listening to a podcast, except for it was this audiobook. And the Cliff Notes version of it is this, that if you feel that you're only worthy of a certain threshold of happiness or joy or money or anything, whatever you think your threshold is, you're subconsciously going to bring yourself to that place at any cost. So if you notice that you'll make a certain amount of money and then you'll spend a certain amount to end up where you were before, or you'll do it in different areas of your life. So you get a brand new job and you get a promotion and you're making more money and you're happier and you're more fulfilled, but then your relationships crumble and they fall apart and you lose the love of your life. Or your health gets really good and then another part of your life falls apart. Your furnace breaks down, your car breaks down, everything seems to be falling apart. So it's one thing goes up and the other one comes down to kind of bring you back to where you're most comfortable. And what we need to learn to do is build up our ability, our capacity to feel good. So knowing, okay, it's okay for things to go well. I don't have to look for things to go wrong. I don't have to search for a reason why I'm not good enough. And when something happens to you that feels good and you're having a great conversation with somebody, you're feeling really connected, or you've been eating really well and you're happy and you're vibrant, whatever the thing is that's making your life better, what we tend to do is to bring ourselves down a notch. Is like, oh yeah, well, I'm not doing this in this area, so I suck. And this didn't work and that didn't work. And it's like, oh, so you brought yourself up a bit and you're bringing yourself back down. So build your capacity to feel good. Do more things that feel good for you and be willing to receive them when you're there. Receive love, receive pleasure, receive goodness, receive all of the things that you have withheld from yourself because you don't feel you deserve them. And that's going to make it easier. It's like a muscle. Instead of like pushing it away, you have to let it come to you. And this is very difficult when you're the type of person that wants to help other people, because you feel like, no, I'll do that for you. I'll do that for you, until you're completely burnt out. And other people get just as much from giving to you. So you are meant to receive. It's only because you believe you're not that you don't.
Wow. Yeah. So what would you say to the woman that feels like, okay, well, maybe that's me. So what steps should they take to be able to receive better?
Well, this is a tricky one, because we live in a culture that tells women that we need stuff, or we need to be a certain way in order to feel worthy, or we have to do certain things. Like, I watched this documentary that was incredible a few years ago, and it just broke my heart. It was about girls in the world, especially countries where being a girl is not a good thing, and to the point where being a baby girl is definitely not a good thing. And it was heartbreaking. And the woman who was speaking, she said, when a little baby girl is born, she is not considered innately worthy. When a boy is born, it's like, oh, this boy, he's going to do good things. He's going to do great things. He's going to make an impact in the world. But women and girls, it's kind of like in a lot of places, they're less than. They're going to be a leech on society. They're going to take rather than give. They're just not considered divine or sacred or worthy. And so we grow up thinking that we need to do certain things to earn back our worth, right? And just look at your entire life, from trying to please your parents or please your teachers or please the guys that you met or the women that you meet, whoever you are surrounding yourself with, probably you felt like you needed to change yourself to be liked by them. And the steps that you have to take to get away from that is really, I could say to you, I want you to go out into the world and just claim and own your space and let yourself be heard and stand up for yourself and refuse to care what people think. That's too big for most people. That's way too big. And even at my I've gone to retreats and they've said, I just want you to speak and let yourself be heard. That's hard for most women. Feeling worthy enough to be heard or even ask for what they want is hard. So I'd like to bring it all the way down to that one little thing, to do something that represents it on a whole. So maybe if you do have someone who you love in your life that is close to you, letting them take care of you and nurture you a little bit, receiving pleasure more often. This could be like an essential way. It could be just like hugs. It could be letting people help you. It could be feeding your body things that really like nourish you. And I know that feels like, oh, that's just under health category. But no, this is under worthiness category, because if you withhold food from yourself, that is just another way of withholding worthiness. So whatever you're keeping from yourself that feels good, so that self-care time. Yeah, you say you don't have time, but you spend 45 minutes on Facebook. So if you spent that 45 minutes in the bath, enjoying it and tending to yourself and caring for yourself, that is a representation of you receiving. And that means more in your life than those minutes on Facebook. And I do this symbolic thing all the time. To me, drinking water. When I'm drinking the water, I can say like, I deserve to receive this. I deserve to feel good. I deserve the vitality that comes from this. Having people give you compliments. If when someone says to you, you look beautiful today, instead of saying, oh, well, no, not really, actually owning it and receiving it and saying, thank you so much, I really appreciate it. Or anything, a compliment, kind words, support, help. When you are letting those things into your life after years and years and centuries of women being told you can't have that until you earn it, then you are kind of bucking that tradition, and you're going to not only change your life, but you're going to change every woman in your life. You're going to change her life because she's going to see that, whether or not she wants to say that's a good thing, because there'll be women who say to you, oh, that must be nice that you're taking a weekend away. When you're not doing it just because you need a weekend away, you're doing it because you need to learn to receive and take time for yourself. And you need women to see that so that they do that, so that they teach their daughters that, and we can create a complete change in society.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I like that. And it's not, and like the weekend away, for example, it's not just like receiving and being able to like spend time in pleasure, but you're like experiencing new things. You're letting yourself receive growth.
Yes.
Yeah. So instead of just, making yourself cooped up in a house or something, you're getting out.
Yeah, it's growth. And if that's the thing that lifts your threshold higher, I mean, if you've been withholding from yourself, for example, you say you have a goal and you're like, every year you say, I really want to go to this place and do this thing. I really want to try this class. I want to do this. Whatever it is, if you're not doing it, it's because you're hitting that threshold. You're hitting that max point, that glass ceiling of what you feel you deserve. So if you do that, it's kind of like a big, like, screw you to whatever you thought you believed before, and an opening up to what's possible. And you do that from that perspective, from that higher point, you're going to be able to see new opportunities you couldn't see. Yeah. So that's kind of like you said, that growth. If you can move past and do that thing you were afraid to do and you thought you shouldn't do, then you're going to be able to see new things you didn't think you were, like, that was even possible. It's like me in the podcast. Like, this isn't something 10 years ago I thought I would do. But until I raised that threshold a little by little every single day with one little step, then I could see it was possible. And this will continue to happen as I grow.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. So we have about 5 minutes left. So I wanted to just let you kind of share, what is your last advice for people coming into 2018? We've talked about, breaking that threshold, doing things that make you grow, being confident in yourself, feeding yourself good things. Is there anything else that you really want to add to these women to inspire them to be better, not cover themselves up for the rest of the year?
Yeah, not hide. Yeah, this is my advice to you. If you are a high achieving perfectionist, good girl, you're going to see this kind of as a race. And one of the consequences of that is that you might always feel like you're on a treadmill and you're chasing this invisible finish line. And what I would say to you to balance all of this stuff we're talking about, growing and evolving and becoming something new, is that you are constantly in a state of becoming. You are never going to reach an end destination with these things. It's a journey. It's a wander. It's not like a marathon. It's not a sprint. You're not going to get somewhere. So just really honor where you are right now. Whatever's happening in your life, whatever you're experiencing, honor and celebrate how far you've come, the things you've accomplished along the way, instead of just thinking, no, I haven't achieved said goal yet. No. What is the one thing that I did today that did feel good? What is the one thing I did today that did make me feel more like myself? And building on those little steps rather than thinking, okay, until I am that 6-figure author at the top of the food chain in New York City with like a studio, like all the things. There's so many people who we look up to. We think, okay, that's success. And the best way I know how to do this is the life you're living now is somebody else's dream. As crazy as it might feel, or as small as it might feel, or like you're not along as far as you wanted to get, somebody else is dreaming of being exactly where you are right now. So you are living a dream. It's just that maybe you want to have a different dream. You want to have a different experience. So just keep in mind that where you are is perfectly okay. You are more than enough. And feeling good little by little is going to bring you closer to what you want. You do not have to earn that. You do not have to prove yourself. That even in this moment, you deserve, and that is what's going to set you up.
Awesome. Those are some awesome words there. Yeah, so I really appreciate you coming on here. It's been fun, and I look forward to listening to some more of your podcasts. And
thank you.
If you ever want to be on again, just let me know, and I'm sure I'll reach out to you eventually. So
I'll
probably hear something and be like, no, I need to talk to her more about that or something. So.
Well, I'm so excited for you doing this podcast. I know how much work it is. So everyone who's listening, I want you to know that this girl is working her butt off to bring this to you. It is not easy. It's not as simple as just like writing a Facebook post. There's hours behind the scenes. And remember that every single episode you listen to, even if you don't get a ton, or if you get a ton, you will always get what you need. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. Every single conversation we listen to, every single podcast you tune into, you will get something out of it. You will get exactly what your soul needs at that time. And it might change, which is why listening to podcasts over and over again, you'll get something new, and that's exactly what you need.
Okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you, beautiful. See you.
Bye.